A 2023 study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry analyzed 88 bottles of extra virgin olive oil sold in U.S. retail stores. 41 of them failed the International Olive Council's chemical purity threshold for extra virgin classification. You paid for extra virgin. The chemistry inside the bottle qualified for a lower grade. The label did not change. You use olive oil because it is the one fat you have decided to trust. You cook with it, dress with it, put it on bread for your kids. That decision rests entirely on the front of the bottle because the back panel does not tell you the acidity level, the peroxide value, or whether an independent lab has ever tested the specific production run you are holding. 41 out of 88 bottles failed. This video covers which 6 brands fell below the standard, what is actually inside them, and which 2 cleared every test. Pompeian extra virgin olive oil. The Pompeian label reads, "Imported from Mediterranean countries," which is the geographic range the company is legally permitted to use when the oil inside the bottle is blended from multiple origins at ratios that shift between production runs. The FDA does not require single origin disclosure for olive oil products that blend across qualifying countries. Mediterranean covers Spain, Italy, Greece, Tunisia, Morocco, Turkey, and 5 other producing nations, and the blend proportions in any given bottle of Pompeian are not disclosed on the label or on the company website. The UC Davis Olive Center published a study in 2011 that tested 186 olive oil samples from California retail stores. 73% of the imported extra virgin samples tested filed the International Olive Council's sensory and chemical standards for extra virgin classification. Pompeian was among the brands included in that sample set. Consumer Reports conducted independent testing of the Pompeian extra virgin line in 2012 and found that the product failed the extra virgin standard by sensory panel evaluation. Pompeian disputed those results. No third-party audited retest was published in response. The oil you use from a Pompeian bottle is not necessarily fraudulent by federal definition because the FDA does not enforce the International Olive Council's extra virgin standard in U.S. commerce. That standard, which sets a maximum acidity level of 0.8% and specific sensory thresholds for rancidity and defects, is a voluntary benchmark in the United States. The USDA published its own voluntary olive oil grading standard in 2010 that aligns with the IOC criteria. Compliance is not required. Testing is not mandatory. The word extra virgin on an American label is not a verified claim. It is a marketing declaration. When you put Pompeian in a pan at 375 degrees, you are heating an oil whose quality at the time of pressing and its condition after months in a transparent or semi-transparent bottle, at a warehouse, on a truck, and on a retail shelf under fluorescent light are all unknown to you at the moment of purchase. Polyphenols, the compounds responsible for the health properties associated with genuine extra virgin olive oil, degrade with heat exposure during storage. A 2021 study in antioxidants measured polyphenol content in commercial olive oil samples and found that oils stored in clear or light-permeable bottles for 6 months or more showed polyphenol losses of 40% compared to oil stored in opaque containers. The Pompeian bottle is transparent. Bertolli extra virgin olive oil. Bertolli is owned by LDC, a French commodities conglomerate that acquired the brand from Unilever in 2008 for a reported 630 million euros. LDC is one of the largest commodity grain traders in Europe. Bertolli is one of its consumer-facing olive oil assets. The product is marketed on Italian heritage, using language that implies Italian provenance. The ingredient label reads, "Olive oil from Italy, Spain, Greece, Turkey, and Tunisia." The percentages of each origin are not disclosed. A 2015 New York Times report cited findings from the UC Davis Olive Center's second major retail audit, in which Bertolli extra virgin products failed chemical and sensory purity tests in a majority of samples tested. Bertolli contested the methodology. The IOC and the California Olive Oil Council both reviewed the Davis protocols independently and found them technically sound. The brand continued to carry the extra virgin designation without modification. The commercial reality behind Bertolli's label is a procurement model designed to source the least expensive qualifying oil from whichever Mediterranean region offers it at a given moment in the commodity cycle. That model is not illegal. It is the operational logic of commodity olive oil at retail scale. What it produces in the bottle is an oil whose polyphenol content, freshness, and sensory profile at the point of consumer use are structurally unpredictable because the supply chain was not designed to optimize for any of those variables. It was designed to optimize for margin at a price point the consumer reads as premium. Kirkland Signature Costco Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Costco's Kirkland Signature Extra Virgin Olive Oil is packaged in a 2-liter clear plastic bottle. The volume is the first problem. Genuine extra virgin olive oil begins to oxidize immediately after pressing. The rate of oxidation accelerates with exposure to light, heat, and oxygen. A 2-liter bottle takes the average household between 6 and 12 weeks to finish. For the oil purchased at the beginning of that window to still qualify as extra virgin by the time it reaches the bottom of the bottle, it would need to have been pressed recently, stored correctly, and tested at the point of bottling. Kirkland's label lists olive oil from Italy, Greece, and or Spain. The or is a legal formulation that allows the blend composition to shift between production runs without requiring a label change. The plastic container compounds the oxidation risk. High-density polyethylene, the material in the Kirkland bottle, is oxygen permeable at a low but measurable rate. A 2018 study in food chemistry found that olive oil stored in HDPE containers showed statistically significant increases in peroxide values, an oxidation marker, over a 90-day period compared to oil stored in dark glass. The IOC's extra virgin standard sets a maximum peroxide value of 20 milliequivalents per kilogram at the time of bottling. The standard does not govern what that value becomes after 90 days in a consumer's kitchen in a clear plastic bottle positioned near a stove. You buy the 2-liter Kirkland bottle because it represents value. The math on a per-ounce basis compared to a 500 milliliter dark glass bottle from a smaller producer is compelling. What the per-ounce calculation does not include is the oxidation trajectory of the oil across the weeks you spend finishing it, or the polyphenol content of the oil at the start of that trajectory. Filippo Berio Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Filippo Berio is owned by Salov S.p.A., a Lucca-based bottling and blending company that is among the largest olive oil processors in Italy by volume. Salov sources bulk oil from multiple countries and bottles under several label brands for different market segments. The Filippo Berio Extra Virgin line is the mass retail product in that portfolio. In 2016, Italian police seized 7,000 tons of oil from several major Italian processors as part of Operation Mamma Mia, an agricultural fraud investigation targeting the adulteration and mislabeling of olive oil products. Salov was not among the named targets of that specific operation. The operation documented, however, the scale and regularity of the practice. Chlorophyll was added to deodorized, lower-grade oil to produce the color associated with extra virgin. Hazelnut oil was added to extend volume. Lampante oil, legally classified as unfit for human consumption without refining, was blended into products labeled extra virgin and sold to consumers. The prosecutions arising from that investigation resulted in criminal convictions for executives at competing firms. They also established that the commercial infrastructure for mislabeled extra virgin oil operated across the Italian bottling sector at scale, with testing gaps at the import stage that made detection at the point of sale difficult. Filippo Berio publishes a sustainability report and uses marketing language emphasizing Italian tradition and master blenders. The specific testing data for any given production run of Filippo Berio extra virgin, including acidity levels, peroxide values, polyphenol content, and sensory panel scores, is not available to consumers on the company website or on the label. Colavita extra virgin olive oil. Colavita is an Italian-American company with production facilities in Pomezia, Italy, and bottling operations in Edison, New Jersey. The brand is widely distributed in the United States across grocery and specialty retail. The extra virgin line is marketed with premium positioning relative to Pompeian and Bertolli at a price point that implies higher sourcing and production standards. The UC Davis Olive Center's 2015 retail study included Colavita in its tested sample set. The results found that Colavita extra virgin did not fail the chemical purity threshold in that specific evaluation. The sensory panel results were mixed across tested samples. Consumer Reports' 2012 evaluation of olive oil brands included Colavita in its tested set and found acceptable quality ratings. The honest reading of the Colavita data is that it performs better than Pompeian and Bertolli across the major independent audits. But the brand does not publish real-time testing data, does not carry third-party harvest date certification, and does not disclose the specific farms or regions within Italy that supplied the oil in any given production period. What distinguishes Colavita from the two recommended brands in this video is not documented fraud. It is structural opacity. The supply chain exists. The testing was better than several competitors. The information available to you at the moment of purchase is the same incomplete set as every other bottle on the shelf. A country of origin, a marketing narrative, and no verified harvest date. Whole Foods, 365 organic extra virgin olive oil. USDA organic certification for olive oil governs how the olives were grown. No synthetic pesticides, no synthetic fertilizers, compliance verified by third-party audit annually. It says nothing about the oil's chemical purity, polyphenol content, or whether the product meets the extra virgin sensory standard. An organically grown olive processed at the wrong temperature, stored in oxidizing conditions, or blended at the wrong ratios with older oil can still carry a USDA organic seal and still fail every IOC extra virgin quality benchmark. The 365 label reads, "Product of Greece." Single country origin is better than a multi-country blend because it narrows the provenance. Greece is one of the three major producing nations with a consistent history of high polyphenol varietals, particularly Koroneiki. Origin alone, however, does not verify quality. The harvest date on the 365 bottle is the bottling date, not the press date. Bottling date and press date are different data points. An oil pressed in November 2023, stored in a bulk tank through the following spring, and bottled in June 2024 would show a June 2024 bottling date. The chemical clock on that oil started in November. The label does not show you when the clock started. The 365 product does not carry a certification from the California Olive Oil Council, the North American Olive Oil Association's Quality Seal Program, or a harvest date disclosure verified by an external body. At a price point above private label competitors, the 365 bottle rests on the organic seal and the country of origin as its primary consumer signals, neither of which tells you the oil inside meets the standard the words extra virgin are supposed to guarantee. The two that held up: California Olive Ranch. California Olive Ranch is the largest domestic olive oil producer in the United States by volume, operating approximately 12,000 acres across California's Central Valley and contracting with grower partners under published quality standards. The relevant distinction from every imported brand above is traceability. California-produced olive oil is subject to the USDA's voluntary grading standard and to California's state food safety inspection regime at a frequency that imported bulk oil typically is not. The UC Davis 2015 retail study found that 100% of California-produced extra virgin olive oils in the tested sample met extra virgin standards on both chemical and sensory criteria. California Olive Ranch was in that sample set and passed. The brand publishes a harvest date on every bottle, not a bottling date. The harvest date is the data point that tells you how far the oil is from the beginning of its oxidation timeline. California Olive Ranch's retail product is typically on shelf within 3 to 4 months of harvest, a supply chain compression that domestic production makes structurally easier than import logistics allows. The ingredient panel on every California Olive Ranch product is a single item: extra virgin olive oil. The bottles are dark glass or opaque packaging. The North American Olive Oil Association has included California Olive Ranch in its Quality Seal program, which requires third-party testing results above the extra virgin chemical threshold before the seal is applied. One honest limitation: California Olive Ranch has received private equity investment and scaled its production significantly over the past decade. Larger production volumes create quality control pressures that smaller estate operations do not face. The Davis testing data covers samples from before the most recent expansion cycle. The quality record through the tested period is strong. Whether that record holds at current scale is a question the existing independent data cannot fully answer. Cobram Estate. Cobram Estate is an Australian producer with U.S. olive growing operations in Lodi, California. The company presses oil within hours of harvest using cold extraction at temperatures controlled below 27 degrees Celsius, the threshold the IOC sets for cold-pressed designation. Polyphenol content degrades with heat during extraction. Cobram's temperature control during pressing is documented and consistent. A 2020 study published in Food Quality and Preference measured polyphenol concentration in a panel of commercially available extra virgin olive oils and found Cobram Estate samples among the highest polyphenol products tested in the U.S. market. Oleocanthal, the specific polyphenol associated with the peppery finish of high-quality extra virgin and studied for its anti-inflammatory properties, was present in Cobram samples at levels the study characterized as nutritionally significant at typical serving sizes. The California-grown Cobram products carry both USDA organic certification on the organic line and harvest date disclosure across the standard line. The COOC quality seal is present on qualifying products. The honest limitation with Cobram is availability. The full product line is most consistently stocked at Whole Foods, Sprouts, and Costco in the western United States, with more limited distribution in the Northeast and Midwest. The Costco distributed Cobram product is the 2-liter format, which reintroduces the volume and oxidation consideration raised in the Kirkland section of this video. For the full polyphenol benefit that Cobram's pressing protocols produce, the 500 milliliter dark glass format from a specialty retailer is the purchasing decision that aligns with what the production method was designed to deliver. The extra virgin designation on an American olive oil label is a voluntary claim. The Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act requires that food labels not be misleading. But the absence of mandatory testing at the point of bottling or import means the claim rests on self-declaration. The 2011 and 2015 UC Davis studies documented failure rates above 70% and above 60%, respectively, for imported extra virgin brands at U.S. retail. The IOC has no enforcement jurisdiction in the United States. The USDA's voluntary grading program tests oil when producers submit it voluntarily. The FDA has issued warning letters to olive oil producers for mislabeling. But the agency has not published a systematic enforcement initiative targeting extra virgin fraud as a category. 2 data points tell you more about the oil in a bottle than the country of origin, the brand heritage, or the organic seal, the harvest date, and a third-party quality certification whose testing standards are published and whose tested results are verifiable. 6 of the 8 brands above have one or neither. The 2 that cleared the standard have both.